My name is Ian Walsh, Hard Money Bankers, joined with the Hard Money Bankers daily show here with a very unique guest. And I think it's very appropriate for the city of Philadelphia at this point, because as a local investor and many investors that'll be watching this, we have a vested interest in the direction of this city. And there's a major election, and it's major at this point because the direction of the city will be dictated by the next mayor that comes into office. And joined today with James DeLeon. James, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ian, for having me today. And thank you, guest of your show.
Yeah, no problem. So James is just retired as a judge from 34 years in the area. Am I correct there?
Yes.
And Coast Guard, so you've served this country. And yes. You're here to make a change. And that change is in the desperately needed crime-ridden Philadelphia right now. And we have a mayor that is the current mayor has thrown his hands up and said, hey, somebody else step in and do my job. And I think all of us in Philadelphia are looking at who's the next man or woman up, and talk to us. Like, what are you bringing to the table to make these changes that you feel can give us that shift?
Well, first, let me say that as far as Mayor Kenny is concerned, he's a good man. I know him. And sometimes people just get overwhelmed if they haven't been trained for the particular situation that you find yourself in. Now, he's found himself in a situation where we're losing people on a daily basis. And last year, there were over 2,300 people shot in Philadelphia, over 5,000 people killed. This year, we're kind of like starting out something similar. So the people are anxious about what can somebody do to help this city out? What can happen to turn this around? So I've been on the bench, like you said, for 34 years. And it's my understanding that the number one job of a mayor is to keep the citizens safe. And if you're having over 2,300 people shot, that's unacceptable. So what I've done is I've written a plan on how to alleviate gun violence. It's called a pathway to alleviate gun violence. And it's based on the National Incident System. I call ours LIMS, a local incident management system. And what it is, it's a set of processes and procedures that the city government would use to combat gun violence that would enable the necessary responders to work more effectively and efficiently together to manage gun violence. So I'll give you an example. I come from the court system. And when I see everyone's solution, well, not their solution because they don't have a solution, they have ideas. And every idea they have, it does not involve the court system. But the court system has over 21 to almost 30,000 people coming through it each year. So let's use the LIM system. So we would sit down, the LIM system, you would sit down with various heads of city government from the mayor's office, city council, the police commissioner, the district attorney, the school system, the court system, not government groups if necessary, neighborhood groups if necessary, and it would be run by a person that I would put in charge to coordinate the whole program called the Commissioner of Public Safety. So one of the things, if we were using the courts as a filtration system, the courts, every single person that's arrested in Philadelphia gets a curfew. They have to be in by 9 at night. Every single person in Philadelphia that's arrested gets a social media ban. They can't be on social media during the time that they're within the court system. Now, all of this is legal and is constitutional. And we're talking about not only adults, but juveniles as well. Now, when they come into the system, we look at their backgrounds as to whether or not they have jobs, whether or not they don't have jobs, whether or not they need technical skills. We give them crisis management. We give them PTSD. We give them job counseling. We give them anything that's needed in order to help turn this person around. Now, what we found out is that a lot of the shootings are based on social media posts where people feel that they get a like because they hold a gun in their hands. And there's arguments that go back and forth between various groups of people. And a lot of that leads to at least 15% of the violence. So if we take those people that come through the court system and we place them on a curfew and a social media ban, it allows our police force to engage in their own anti-violence directives. Do you understand where I'm going, Ian?
I do understand what you're suggesting. One of the questions I have, as you mentioned, so are you stating, and I didn't know this, are you stating that 15% of the gun violent incidences in the city essentially could be picked off, or you could see it in advance via social media? Like you're saying, people are grandizing and making, somebody's coming on saying, I'm going to shoot this guy or do whatever I'm going to do, essentially making a scene of it on social media, receives the attention in advance? Or are you suggesting that's
yes? As a matter of fact, yeah, the police has a social media intelligence where they have police officers that are engaging social media as to look at what people are saying on social media. And they look specifically at those that have been arrested because they know them. They know who they are, and they follow them on social media. I've had like so many cases where it was social media that led to the individual homicide cases being arrested was because of the social media posts of the individual where he would get likes. I've had people on social media show the money that they've gotten for taking out a hit. Like, and before they got the money, were on social media stating, I'm waiting for my money. I'm waiting for my money. And then when they got their $35,000 for taking a hit on someone, they were showing the money on social media and showing the gun that they used in order to take the hit. The situation that we had at Overbrook back by Thanksgiving, that was based on something that had taken place on social media. And what I did was, at that time, I had alerted my research team, what can we do about children? And I had them do research. And basically based on, I asked a simple question. What is the child's First Amendment rights? So they came back with the research. And it said, James, a child's First Amendment rights start from birth. So that's kind of good because that's us. Okay, all of us have the right to the First Amendment right from birth. So I asked, can we have a child, take a child off social media? And the research was, no, we can't. But then he said, but if a child is within the court system, case law says that we can take them off social media. So what that means is every single person that we have in the court system, we can take off of social media while they're in the court system. Now, that's going to do, that's going to lower the impact of people that are chatting across social media. The curfew is going to lower the amount of people that are outside on the street. All this is going to allow the police to do their anti-gun violence initiatives. But it can't just start and stop there, because the neighborhoods are the reason why we're having this gun violence because of the poorness in the neighborhoods, because of the drugs in the neighborhoods. So what we want to do, we want to turn around the culture of crime. Now, the funny thing is that with my administration, we're not here to interfere with anybody's culture, but we are here to interfere with what could become a culture of crime. So how do we do that? We go into the neighborhoods with neighborhood groups and we fund them. We fund the neighborhood groups to work with the neighborhoods. When we have people that we're giving PTSD to, that we're giving social services to, that we're giving job counseling, this can be done not just through the probation department, but also through the funded community groups. Because history has shown that if a community is able to help itself, the community will heal itself. And what we want to do is heal the communities. Now, this also means that we're going to have to look at the education at a lot of schools there. Now, later on today, I'm going to meet with the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. And I have some thoughts that I'm going to share with them as to my findings. And I'll share one thing that with your audience. I came across a report that if a school loses a teacher and their enrollment goes down, let's say 5 students, and they lose 1 teacher, they also lose some money. Now, if the school is poor in the first place and you lost a few students, which means that you should have a smaller class size, why are you taking the money away as well? Why is it not that you can't allow a principal to coordinate that money to the benefit of the students that he has? Because it's possible that by coordinating that money, he'll make it possible for students that would not graduate to be on the track to graduation. So to me, it's like taking bread out of the mouths of chicks. So that's one of the things that I'm going to discuss with the PFT today. What do you feel so far, Ian?
So I always struggle in the realm of politics. It's probably why I'm not a politician, because, I hear, like, I feel good about the things that, the ideas, and then, but in my mind, I mean, I'm sure you think about it too as a politician, because you're trying to find the best resolution to any given problem out there, right? But then you go, okay, well, if we're going to do the social media thing, everybody's going to touch on, freedom of speech, right? Everybody's going to say, whoa, where are we with this? And you go, are we moving too far into people's rights, or is this the right balance that the area needs to, I guess what you're trying to do is you do the least amount of collateral damage to have the most impact in any given scenario. If you want to ask me for my opinion would be, I wish people could handle themselves, so we didn't need politics to do that for them. That's what I really would hope for. I wish people could do that. But I also understand it is not fair for me to say, I sympathize with somebody that is in, I have a lot of sympathy for, if you go out, somebody goes out and shoots somebody else, right? That's a horrible thing. But at the same time, that person likely didn't come out up in an upbringing that I can sit here and judge them. Like, I don't know what they had going on that day, that night, what kind of abuses they probably were experienced in their life to bring them to that point to do that to someone else. I'm not justifying their act. What I'm saying is there's such a huge divergence in where I sit here and where somebody else might sit somewhere else. So I have no way to judge or determine if something is going to work. So the plans that you're stating sound great to me. As far as the principle goes, it seems like a logical decision to me to make. Like, why would you be taking that money away from a scenario that it makes no sense? In fact, I would say an answer is probably should be demanded as to why that's occurring right now. Like, that's no logical sense. It sounds like money is going somewhere it shouldn't. if I had to guess, but I don't know where that might be. So my shorter answer is I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer. Your plans sound good, and I'm here to listen, because I'm gonna, everybody's gonna want to know who and why they're voting for people, and you have courses of action in place. Like, you're very definitive. I've sat down with some people that are politicians that I'm like, I hear a lot of talk about what you think is wrong, but I don't hear what we're gonna do to change it. And that's a big deal, because you can tell me everything's wrong, but if you're not gonna come up with a plan like you have to change it, that's an issue. So I think it's a very logical thing in both scenarios that you're writing. What's your thought on like the freedom of speech? Like, that's probably the next question coming with that, right?
Right. And that's why I've done the research on that.
Okay.
The funny thing is, first of all, I'm not a politician. I'm a judge. I made decisions I made decisions that affected the lives of every single Philadelphian on a daily basis. When you come into my system, into the judicial system, your rights are curtailed. I can tell you, I can order you, you are staying off of social media, and you are going to be home for curfew at 9 o'clock at night, unless you show me that you have a job that's going to take you out later, unless you show me that social media is necessary for you to complete your education. And then I'm going to curtail how you are on social media for that particular time, all while you're under my purview, because something happened that put you into the criminal justice system. And once you enter the criminal justice system, things change. The freedom of speech is not the freedom of speech as you knew it before you entered the criminal justice system. That's why the court has to be the filtration system for the local incident management system, because it's on a two-way side. You have people that are in the court system that are under the jurisdiction of the court, and you have people that are in the civilian system that are under the Constitution of the United States as it's fully set forth therein. And you have to handle both of those at the same time. We can't just take the people that are coming into court and deal with them and not deal with the people that aren't in court at the same time. And the funny thing is that we have money to do this. We have now it's down to $1.1 billion of the American Rescue Plan. And it was $1.4 billion. And Mayor Kenny, in his FY 2023 budget, took in $353 million for his various plans, which means that there's left basically like about $1 billion. Now, are we going to use the American Rescue Plan to help rescue Philadelphia? Or are we going to call it the American Sit on Our Hands Plan and leave the money in the bank while people are dying at the rate of 500 a year, and our schools are failing? So my proposition is that when I'm in office, that I'm going to fund my Commissioner of Public Safety, who's going to coordinate the LIMS program in a manner that's going to allow this city to build back its tax base. And we're going to build back its tax base because we're going to recover our citizens. We're going to recover as many citizens as we can, give them the necessary help that they need, including Kensington, where we just got some money to go to Kensington to help the people out down there as far as the drug problem is concerned. But the neighbors there, they're wary of the plan because all that's used to treat the drug problem stays there along with the people. So they want to see the people get better as they're getting the drug program. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the people get better as they're getting the drug program, not just get the drug program so that your high is taken care of and you might not OD, but let's see if we can get you out of the situation that you're in, which might take a period of time, but it's worth it because we're about trying to save lives. Every life that we save is a life of a Philadelphian that can help the city.
I think it's, there's a disconnect I notice when people are, a lot of people watch CNN or Fox News or whatever it may be, and you sit there like I consider it like you're like an armchair not you, I'm saying in general, like an armchair politician. Like you're watching like football, right? You're an armchair football player where you're pointing at Aaron Rodgers, or you're pointing at Jalen Hurts and saying, hey, do this, I would have done this, I would have done that. But you have no connection to the field when you're sitting at home like that. And I feel what you're talking about, a lot of people would say, get the drugs off the street, get those people out of here. I agree with you in the fact that, and I kind of stated it earlier, like walk a mile in those shoes before you can make that call, right? You have to walk a mile in those shoes to say before you go, oh, this is a person. Oh, I think rehabilitating this person is a good idea. And I agree with you on that capacity. However that's done, I don't know. It sounds like you have a good plan, but I have a question for you. You've been around this city for a very long time, 34 years, especially in the judicial system. So you've seen this city have its turns. Once upon a time, Germantown was a completely different place than it was now 50 years ago, right? And then, so you've seen different areas of the city up and down, Brewery Town, Kensington, Northfield, all that, like it's all shifting. What do you see has been over the past 34 years, whether from the judicial standpoint or outside of it, that you've just witnessed as a Philadelphian, somebody in Philadelphia? What has caused the biggest change in a positive? So let's say the city's in a rut and it needs to come out, like where we are right now. What have you seen pull that out in the past that you feel applies here today? And obviously the gun violence is a big one, but what other areas would pull the city out like it's done in the past? Could you allude to that?
Well, the first aspect was back in the 80s, we went to the war on drugs with, and there was a senator from Pennsylvania named Stuart Greenleaf who wrote the rules for the war on drugs in Pennsylvania. And that led to the incarceration of, it went from 70 per 100,000 people to 400 per 100,000 people. So that war on drugs, when they made a determination that was the wrong move, when they started decriminalizing crack and making it the same as powder cocaine, things like that, all that was a positive. And at that time, we could have gotten our hands on the situation if they had given the services to the community groups. But what happened was they didn't. So you had the children of the crack, the people who were dealing crack, who now grew up. And you had so many people incarcerated that the children were there to raise themselves. And that's what led to the gangs that we have going on now, because they're basically people who have gotten together to raise themselves without their parents, or were using their grandparents to raise them. So the difference is, like 10 years ago, we were down where we were only having, and it's not only, because the loss of a life is the loss of a life. We had under 300 people killed a year. Now we're up to 500. Back in the 90s, we had 500, but that was more towards the Jamaican posse gangs, the Colombians, that dealt with drugs. Now it's indiscriminate. This is a different situation. back in the 70s in Germantown, we used to have gang workers. That's something that we need to get right now again. We need to fund people that can talk to the youth and persuade them that being in the gang, even though they get that closeness of being together, that in the long run, we need to make them productive citizens and give them the skills that they need in order to break away from the gang mentality. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you come with such a unique perspective in that being in the judicial system. Like you've seen not only from somebody that's been around Philadelphia for a long time, but you've seen it like intimately, right? Like you can give that kind of insight intimately because you're like, not only do I see this on TV, but I'm going to work every day, and that guy you just saw on TV, I'm dealing with him right now in my courtroom, right? So it's a pretty
Yes.
interesting perspective, I think, to have in what you're doing. And I think what you're saying more or less is that each era of, downturn in Philadelphia, because it's a cycle, right? But each era had its own flavor, had its own, its own reason. And
Right.
you've narrowed down from what you discussed in the show, your top reasons and top things to attack and go after and say, all right, this is what we need to do to get out of this rut. So when, the Ian Walsh 34 years from now, interviews James DeLeon 34 years from now, you go, hey, remember back in 2023 when James put this XYZ plan in place? Well, we're seeing the effects of it now because we did that. And you're like you said, you saw the effects of being raised by your grandparents and gang activity. And that's generations is what it carries through to bring you to that point, which is that butterfly effect, that's a lot of responsibility for the next guy sitting in office when you think of it like that.
Well, that's why I was an Army officer, because I was trained to take on these particular types of responsibilities. The fact is that I was always trained to be, let's not say a savior, but a person to take care of people. I had to take care of my men. When I was a judge, I had to take care of the city as a judge. I'm a lifeguard also. I'm a working lifeguard. So I stand over a pool and I look at people swim. And if a person is in distress, I have to go in the water and bring that person out. And that's the reason why I'm running for judge. I see a city in distress, and I had to go in the water to show that I have the skills to bring this city out of what it's in for you, because I need you to be able to do what you do to make money so that this city can make money, because the city's main background is as a financial hub. And I have to ensure that that financial hub grows. And that's why I need to make an impact on recouping people from the neighborhood, reducing the gun violence so that we can increase our tax base.
I think it couldn't be better said, and I think that's a great place to leave this. I want to make sure anybody that's your information has been scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So I'm sure over the next several months, it's going to ramp up the election efforts. So people are going to want to know, what do you stand for? What do you do? I have been to your site. I was looking through some of your initiatives. It's well put together and well done. And for anybody else that is looking for more information on you, the site is right below. So you obviously care a lot about the city, and you live it, you breathe it, literally in the judicial system. So I'm excited to see the next person. Here's what I think is going to come of this. I do think that most of the individuals running right now are strong individuals. I don't think that we have. I mean, there's some maybe that are going to get knocked out, but like from what I've gathered, it's people that care about the city, and you step right in those shoes, and you care. Like you're doing this because you care, clearly for no other reason. Like I can't, you care about turning Philadelphia around.
Exactly.
And that's more important than any alternative. I know there's been some announcements, some other names coming up that, they'll have to vet that kind of, but doing this kind of show and showing people, there's gonna be a lot of people that are going to see you for who you are. You're not going to just be a picture somewhere for somebody. They're going to see you care. I can see that very much through this interview. So I appreciate having you on, and yeah, if you want to do this again in the future, I'm sure as he gets closer, be happy to. And good luck with all the feedback. We get some interesting emails back from all this kind of stuff. So yeah.
And my website has donation buttons. I need you to help me make this city the city that it should be.
Perfect. Thank you, James. You have a great day.
Thank you, Ian. Take care.